Hey there everyone, it's Amit Bandari of TalkCondo.com, and today we're at Market Vision HQ and we are sitting with Brody Townley, who's the Director of Developments, and Manling Lau, who's the VP of Sales. Both thank you very much. And we're here to talk about 88 Queen. So guys, thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Amit.
I'm going to jump right in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do bullet points as to the kind of things that I'd like to talk about.
Sure. Right.
Obviously, first thing I want to talk about is the developer. They're a very prominent developer, global developer that developed in multiple areas and multiple things. Then I want to talk about the neighborhood, because the neighborhood is a key ingredient in all of this, I feel. And obviously location. This is AAA. And then I want to go into the building, the development itself, because it's a fairly substantial development, taking up a city block pretty much. So there's a lot of elements in there that I'd like to talk about. So jumping right in, development company that's involved here, St. Thomas, are a huge development company. One of the most prominent buildings that are in Toronto is one, I believe that it's probably the most luxurious building in all of Toronto, 1 St. Thomas, that is actually apparently favored by a lot of celebrities. And of course, neighboring that is 7 St. Thomas. So if you could just talk about the developers from your side.
So I'll give you a bit of a background on St. Thomas Developments. Their first project here in Toronto was Ellipse 1 and 2, which is a tower condo high-rise by Scarborough Town Centre.
Okay.
We've had a long-lasting relationship with them, and we see their quality of work and the types of partners that they hire and the overall development team. From the architect to the interior designers, they hire best in class.
Yep.
And then 1 St. Thomas, which is a landmark building in Toronto by Robert Stern. That building set a new standard of quality in the Yorkville area.
Yep.
And if we talk about some of their commercial buildings, 7 St. Thomas, which was designed by Haruri Pontarini, who's going to be designing 88 Queen.
Wonderful.
The quality of work that you see there is the quality of work that you're going to see with 88 Queen going forward. And in terms of a bit of a background on the development site at 88 Queen, they purchased this site as a full city block. So from Queen to Shooter, Mutual, and Dalhousie.
Yes.
88 North, which launched in the middle of 2016, which is taking occupancy in actually March, was the first building in this overall master plan community.
Yep.
They saw really the benefit of the East End, which hasn't seen as much development as comparable to either the downtown core or the West End.
West of Yonge, yeah.
And that's something that this developer saw and that we've seen. Obviously, this market has been rising. But 88 Queen is in an area that is still developing. There's a lot of applications and there's a lot of growth. And that's what we feel with this project, is that there's a lot more that this area has to grow.
Absolutely. I actually want to talk about the development of the east side when we come to the location as well. So you was mentioning earlier about some developments in China that, or Hong Kong, that they've also worked on, some high-end product out there that you wanted to touch on as well.
They did work on a lot of, they actually work on a lot of high-end hotels and customized homes.
And a lot of his boutique hotels also have had a really good team involved. He's actually had one of landmark building over there designed by Robert Stern.
Right.
So he hires best in class. His attention to detail and quality is really uncomparable to a lot of developers. He takes a lot of passion in not just the facade of the building, but also the interior.
Yeah. No, it's so important, because knowing, if you put an investor client in there, and this should be music to clients' ears, because if there's best-in-class team that's working on a particular development, it goes to show that the attention to detail, the demand, future demand, potential future demand, it's going to show ultimately in the numbers. So that's what we always like to see. So we briefly touched on location. I actually want to delve deeper into that, and you talked about that, the growth of the east side, and that's been happening quite a lot recently. You mentioned a lot of the applications. There's been a ton, a lot of applications, and you are seeing the shift over to that east side as well. If you wanted to talk a bit more about that shift over.
I think that there's been an explosive growth in the West End, and there's a lot of land that is there to be developed in the East End, and we actually like to see applications come in, because it shows that there's obviously faith in the overall area.
Absolutely,
And when we launched 88 North, at that time prices were where they are and prices are where they're at now, but you can see the like difference of how the area has changed and how land has been purchased, it's been assembled, developers have come in and kind of seen what St. Thomas Development saw when they purchased this large parcel. Given its location to both transit, the downtown financial core, walking distance to Queen subway station, walking distance to the St. Louis market. There's a lot there that is going to change over time and that we've seen, including areas that are being gentrified.
Yes.
And that's how we see it, and that's how we see it in the future.
Absolutely. You glossed over the transit access, but it's a big deal here.
The transit, you
can see in the pictures, you can see the streetcars and then just down the road.
We're actually 3 streetcar stops if you don't want to walk right from Queens subway station. And, transit location, that's a huge driver for, whether it's an end user, whether it's a investor. Location
Absolutely.
is, one of the most important things that people tend to look at. And the location of 88 Queen you have access to great restaurants, you have great access to hospitals. Whether you're a nurse or a doctor, it's so close to everything.
Or a student at Ryerson, perhaps.
And so walkability, is a really important point. That I think we want to get across is that the area is changing. There's a lot more commercial, and Mei Ling will speak a bit more about the commercial element to this project as well.
I want to pause on that because I want to also talk about the tenant pool, because you've mentioned a few very large institutions. You've got the hospitals, we've got Eaton Centre, we've got Ryerson University, but on top of that, we've seen the huge growth of the tech sector.
Correct.
In a massive way, and given its proximity to, I guess, this tech district almost, there's a huge tenant pool.
Of course.
Again, something that investors would love. But if you wanted to talk about the
I think, as we all know, Toronto's the financial hub. It's the tech hub of Canada. We've seen huge inflows of immigration for people that either need to find accommodation to rent, or they want to purchase. But some of the biggest names, Google, Oracle, Facebook, are all in the downtown core, and they're all walking distance to where we are. If you want to work at one of the big banks, there's a lot of innovation occurring within Toronto right now, and I think that they're like constantly growing, and they're constantly getting bigger, and they're constantly hiring, and a lot of those people want to be close to work, right? They don't want to be coming in from far ways out of the city. So, there's always this, we hear about low vacancy rates, we hear about there's not enough supply. And I think that we can see that with how well buildings like these rent, when they start to get occupied, and what type of people come into them. And that's why, our floor plans are not just, the building isn't designed from the outside in, it's actually designed from the inside out, right? Perfect. Where a large emphasis and attention to detail is given to the floor plan, so we can accommodate these types of people that are coming into this area.
Wonderful. We've actually got a little bit of a story, an anecdote, where one of our clients who owns a unit not too far from 88 Queen, who re-leased their unit to a 23-year-old, first job out of university, and he's on $150,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's a tech employee.
Yeah.
And it shows us the kind of direction that this area, the future of this area, which direction it is heading in. It's heading into an area where it is going to attract individuals at a high earning rate, very highly skilled, which is ultimately going to attract more individuals of that caliber, which is ultimately going to put an upward pressure on both rent and appreciation.
Yeah, of course.
And we can see that here because you were kind of alluded to it, where the vast majority of development has happened sort of west of Yonge, but now we're seeing this east of Yonge. Maybe we may see a shift in demand more over to the east, especially with developments like this, because this caters to a whole host of different people.
Well, to kind of talk to your point about, what type of people are renting this area. You know, we're steps from St. Michael's Hospital.
Right.
You know, for 88 North, which you know we had tremendous success selling out that building. But some of our purchasers were actually nurses. They are
doctors.
they are
Yes.
you know, they're doctors. So it's those types of people that, you know, we see coming into here because it's a convenience, right? It's convenience
Absolutely.
walking to work. It's a convenience walking to the hospital, and it's not like a few subway rides. It's literally at your front door.
And on top of that, it's an easy walk to, say, restaurants.
Oh, of
it's
course.
an easy walk to eating centers.
Yes.
So it's a cool little package for an individual if they want to, you know, either invest here or live here. It has everything for
Yes.
everybody.
It's even close to the financial core.
Yes,
so-
of course. Yeah,
yes.
which is also a huge tenant pool.
That's right.
And of course, a whole host of incredible companies as well.
Yes.
And then of course, it's just literally a short minute walk to Yonge Street as well. 3-4 minute walk to Yonge Street. And if you wanted to get anywhere else, you've got, again, like I was mentioning here, you've got the streetcar that are
Running 24/7.
running
On Queen
24/7.
Street,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And no other streetcars is
Yeah.
doing that.
Accessibility to transit, accessibility to neighborhood amenities. This is a killer location. It really is. I wanted to go into the development itself.
Sure.
This is, I guess, the next phase of 88 Queen. The development, first phase, obviously, we've mentioned a couple of times the North Tower. This is going to be the South Tower. It's going to be the last opportunity to essentially buy in this development. But I wanted to start off at the grade level,
Right.
because what the developers are doing here is an incredible retail muse.
Yes.
So if you wanted to talk about that, because I think it's phenomenal, including the park as well.
Right. So for the ground level on 88 Queen, we will have cafes, boutiques, restaurants, lots of it's all glass, as you can see from here in the picture. There will be a middle area that would actually lead you into the city block, into the whole community,
Yeah.
where you will see the pops, the parks, and then it leads you into the other buildings.
Yeah.
And then it eventually will lead you into 88 North or First Building.
Yeah, it's like a network.
Yes.
It's exposed to the elements I
That's
noticed.
right.
So it is outdoor, but it's like walkways essentially.
Correct.
Through the entire development, which I thought was incredible.
Yes.
And it's one of those features where you don't see this kind of stuff.
No,
in
and I
other
think that was
developments.
something that I think the city wanted the builder to create, and actually, you know, HPA, they wanted that as well, and so did the developers. So they came up with a whole new development for just the city block,
Yeah.
with the retail at the ground, and then there's more parks and
Yeah.
news and sitting areas that would just lead right into the community.
And again, it's these kinds of amenities that it can be enjoyed by anybody.
Yes.
But for a resident in the building, for a tenant who's living in it, it's right at the doorstep.
Exactly.
So you have a retail complex essentially with public space. You have transit access. It just, you know, it checks a lot of boxes, this kind of development. I wanted to go into the building itself. You know, if you could detail us,
Sure.
tell us about the building itself, how tall, unit mix. That kind
Yes. So on the ground level, we talked about the retail, and then on the second to the fifth floor, we have office space.
Yep.
On the sixth to seventh floor, we have our amenities. It's 2 levels, and then on our 8th floor, we'll have residential up to the 51st floor.
Okay, 8 to 51.
Yes,
Okay.
8 to 51.
And what kind of suite mix are we looking at?
We're looking at a really good suite mix. We're looking at anywhere from 1 bedrooms up to 3 bedrooms. So our smallest suite in this building is 518 square feet.
Okay.
And then we have 1 bedroom and dens that are starting at 623 square feet. Then we have our 2 bedrooms starting at approximately 767 square feet.
Okay.
And then we have a 2 bedroom and a den, which is on a higher floor, on the
Okay.
higher floors portion of the building. That's about 1095 square feet.
Okay.
And then we have 1 3-bedroom unit, actually no, 2 3-bedroom units that are on the corner that are starting from 767 square feet.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. You know,
Yep.
as I mentioned, we start at 1 bedrooms. We don't have any studios.
Okay.
And I think the reason why we don't have any studios in this building is the developer is very meticulous about his units.
Okay.
He literally works on it himself in Hong Kong.
Right.
And he would move, you know, a wall here and just to make a little bit more room for either your bedroom or your living area or your den. So I think one of the reasons why he didn't put any studios in is because he thinks about people who are actually living there.
Right.
You know, I think when St. Thomas Developments did on St. Thomas, you know, I mean, the smallest 1-bedroom was well over 1,000 square
Right,
feet,
yeah.
predominantly larger suites, and still a tower building, but you know, a really big emphasis on livability.
Yeah.
And we know that, you know, a lot of our purchasers and people that are going to be renting are going to be coming from the financial core. They could be students, but maybe it's a student that then turns into working down.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So this, you know, St. Thomas Developments, the developer, they're very, very thought driven in terms of the function of space and the function of use. You know, not just having a box and thinking like I'm going to be here for a year. You know, to think how can I grow within here. I mean, we have, you know, very functional 1-in dens with 2 bathrooms where the den is well enough to be a size of a bedroom.
Right.
You know, where 2 people can live without having to share 1 bathroom. You know, every suite in this project has a balcony. So those are things that this developer really thinks about.
And I guess it does speak to the developer because one St. Thomas was, I guess, created with a specific buyer profile in mind.
Correct. Yeah.
And it elevates the luxuriness of the building, if that is even a word, but it just elevates the building as a whole, especially when, you know, I mean, the smallest size is 1,000 something. And it sort of sets the tone up nicely for 88 Queen as well, because they do have kind of a vision, kind of an idea in mind for this building, the kind of population that would potentially want to live in this kind of building. We've gone through a lot of stuff here because it's not one of those straightforward developments, because there's a lot going on, you know, from the incredible developers who have tremendous pedigree, creating one of the most luxurious buildings in all of Toronto, liked by celebrities and sports stars and whatnot. But they've also built commercial buildings, the neighboring building obviously, and then they've got a lot of pedigree out in Hong Kong, luxury housing, luxury hotels, and then we spoke about the location, having access to pretty much the entire city, because you've got streetcar at your doorstep, but then you're also a short walk from to Yonge Street, as well as Queen subway station and Yonge and Dundas station as well. So you're sandwiched in between. And then you also have easy access to a whole host of incredible neighborhood amenities, Eaton Centre, Ryerson University, the hospitals. So you have a huge potential tenant pool that, say, if an investor were to look at this with a keen eye, they can see that, you know, there is a lot of boxes that this checks. And then we spoke about the development itself, taking up a city block with an incredible retail upgrade, with a retail muse, and public spaces with the public parks. The building itself with its amenity spaces and a really unique, really nice mix of units. Well, we're really excited. I think it's such a tremendous, tremendous development. If we have clients that are interested, what would you recommend they do?
We really think that your clients should be reaching out to you too.
Yes, definitely call Roy and Amit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brody. Very
Pleasure.
nice chatting with you, Manling. So nice chatting with you.
Thank you for having us.